feel kind of guilty taking a drink on Good Friday.
Why on earth? There's,
I don't know.
who else took a drink on, or did not take a drink on Good Friday?
I have no idea.
Jesus, as a matter of fact.
Oh.
He was offered some sour wine. Actually, I believe he did take it, but initially he refused it and most commentators and scholars believe it was because he did not want to deaden the pain of being tortured for humanity's sin by one minute ounce. So, yes, I suppose in respect and remembrance of Christ, that is very honorable of you to abstain from drinking.
Oh, okay. I just put my drink down. I feel kind of guilty.
So, what I want to ask you is, now that this is the resurrection, this season of the resurrection, this is Holy Week.
Yeah.
At least when we're recording this.
Yeah.
What does that really mean to folks who have no connection with Christianity? I mean,
well, it's an interesting thing. I've often thought about this myself. Is why is Christianity a unique religion on the whole planet? And I recall, as I think you and I have discussed several times, a conversation that took place in the faculty lounge at Oxford University around 1943 during the Second World War, when Dorothy Sayers, the famous writer, novelist, and philosopher, and J.J.R. Tolkien, we don't need to talk about who he is.
No introduction needed.
And they were in a hot conversation concerning the question of, what is the most highly impactful religion on the planet. And they were arguing about this, and in walks, guess who? C.S. Lewis. Okay,
Jack. His name is Jack.
Yes. Jack walks in, and he walks over to the bar, and he pours himself a single malt scotch, and he's listening to the conversation.
I love how you remember what drink order he made.
Oh no, he's
50 years ago.
More than 50 years ago. He was very, very particular about single malt scotch. Very particular. Yeah, you were no one if you didn't drink single malt scotch.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
All those fellows drinking white wine back then.
Goat piss. White wine was considered goat piss.
All right, keep going.
Anyway, so he turns on his heel. He said, "Don't you know the answer to that question?" And they said, "Well, you're going to tell us." And he said, "Yeah." He said, "Christianity is the most impactful religion and the best religion that humans have ever produced." And they both were like stunned. And Tolkien says, "Well, why do you say that, Jack?" And Jack says, "Well, because it's the only religion that has a death, resurrection, and salvation module built into it." Mm-hmm. He said it's the only religion on the whole planet that humans have evolved, that humans have intuited, if you will, to use your epistemology. I'm not going to use mine. Intuited that really has the notion that God so loved the human creation that he had created, that he actually sent his only begotten son to earth to suffer and die in reparation for the sins of humanity, and to give every human being the chance for salvation through the resurrection.
Yes.
And that's why we celebrate Easter.
Well, we do a terrible job of celebrating Easter. I think we do a much better job of celebrating Resurrection Day. But semantics aside,
it's funny about the way the word Easter evolved. I mean, every time you see Easter in the stores, you don't see any pictures of Jesus on the cross or, the empty tomb.
No. You see a bunny.
You see bunnies and eggs. Well, that's because the word Easter is an old German word, Estore, which really is the goddess.
Anglo-Saxon, actually.
What? No. She was.
I just looked this up.
Look it up again. It was the goddess of springtime.
Yes, and the sunrise.
And that's why you have bunnies and eggs, because it bespeaks of the procreative, the renewal of life aspect of it. But to get back to the Christian aspect, which is what you're concerned with, and what we should be concerned with, is that Easter has been hijacked. It's a totally commercial enterprise at this particular point.
So why should somebody who, let's say, has no connection with Christianity be concerned about this?
Well, they should be concerned about the fact that Christianity at least offers you, if you strip away all the, the
Stuff you don't
superficialities.
like. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well,
Sure.
all the superficialities, all of the glitter and the glamour and the liturgy, take all that away. If you drill down to the essence of Christianity, a person should be concerned about at least look at Christianity, all right? Because it offers hope, it offers salvation to an otherwise dreary human existence. I pity the communist, the atheist, Marxist, who only thinks that this world that's all there is to human life. That must be a dreary and deplorable aspect to live. I can't even imagine. So if you are a Marxist and a commie, you might want to look at Christianity, because there is the salvation and the hope of redemption for all of the imperfections that every one of us experiences.
I often point out, when you look at a worldview, discuss whether it's good or bad, there's only two things you should be concerned about.
Can I have a drink?
Oh, yeah, sure, go for it.
Yeah.
I'm going to have one too. There's only two things you should be concerned about. The first is a person's behaviors.
Yeah.
And that's more of a societal thing. Can we work as a society? Look, if you, believe in this, that, and the other thing, whatever, but will you kill me for whatever reason? Behaviors, that's something to be concerned about. Will you kill someone? Will you throw them off of a building if they're homosexual? That's something we're concerned about. What are your behaviors that come from your belief? And the second one, this is introspective. And this is something that is discounted, in my opinion, in materialistic cultures, in American culture. And that is the issue of salvation and of redemption.
Yeah.
And ultimately, if you drill down there, you come to hope. Where does this person, this human being, get hope? Yeah, and I can go through all the different religions, and I can give them my criticism on both these regards. But if we're talking just a very secular observation of the different faiths and belief systems, it all comes down to these two things. One affects our society, and the other affects the soul of our nation and our culture. And
have you ever had somebody die in your arms?
No, I haven't.
I did. I actually had that experience. And it was an individual who was despised and rejected. Sound familiar? An individual who was despised and rejected because they were homosexual, by the way, and who had contracted AIDS, by the way. And it wasn't until the very last few moments of that person's life that they realized that they had hope of salvation, because they were accepted by something beyond themselves. That's the essence of Christianity. To me, the essence of Christianity is that you have hope in salvation because you are accepted and regarded as meaningful by something or someone outside of yourself. This person died a happy death.
That's quite beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, well, to me, I always think about this on Easter Sunday. I always think about this.
Yeah. It's the right thing to think about, because that aspect of redemption, no matter how messed up you are, that you have a hope of redemption. Because trust me, wherever you think you are, there's somebody more messed up than you.
Yeah.
That idea of being redeemed really is the most powerful, and I can't think of any other ideology or movement or worldview that gives hope like that, because
there isn't anyone.
And what really sets Christ apart from all these other spiritual teachers, Prophet Muhammad, Lao Tzu, Buddha, all these different, you know what's the big difference between them all is?
What's that?
That their graves, all of theirs has a body in it.
Mhm.
Christ is empty. See, this is one thing that a lot of story you see for every major world religion has a story aspect or a narrative aspect to it.
Mhm.
And as a person who loves stories, I love narratives, I love studying the structure of stories, and I know you do too. There's always, you can go through the basic story arc, the climax, the fall, yada, yada, yada. There's always your protagonist. Now, in our modern era of superheroes, we like to see these godlike people that can fly, have super strength, or yada, yada, yada. But the good ones, the good superhero movies, have flawed characters as the main. You got Batman, who has all these parent, mommy, daddy issues. You have Superman, who is, well, he's from Kansas, so of course he's got problems.
And kryptonite, yeah.
Yeah, and kryptonite. Yeah, yada, yada, yada. And virtually all these characters, at some point in their stories, dies for some reason. Superman, he dies. Spider-Man dies bajillion times. Green Lantern, and all these people die at some point. Mm-hmm. Usually, though, they come back, and it's because they actually got somebody from a different dimension. They go back in time, or in the case of Superman, he went into this healing coma, so he didn't technically die.
But,
and
what I'm
getting at,
what's the point?
Okay. As soon as you say that is when I get to the point.
Okay.
The thing about all these different deaths is they needed a force outside of themselves to come back. Mm-hmm. In the case of Christ, though, what makes his story stand out from all others is that only by his power he could bring himself back. It's one thing to resurrect somebody else, but to resurrect yourself.
Well, even if he didn't, have you considered the option that even if Christ did not resurrect himself, even if Christ is not the second person of the Blessed Trinity, even if Christ is not divine, nevertheless, the narrative of salvation and resurrection and salvation is still a vital option for human faith and human belief. Consider that.
Well, I have considered that, and so is St. Paul. And he said, if there is no resurrection, we have no hope. He's very explicit, and he lays it all out. The reason why is because if Christ doesn't have the power to overcome this force that sin, then he really couldn't. He never could have saved us if he couldn't overcome it himself.
Right. Well, let's wrap this up on this Easter Sunday. Sure. We will broadcast this on Easter Sunday. Let's wrap this up with something that C.S. Lewis said in one of his works.
Sure.
I would believe in Aslan, even if there were no Aslan.
And in case you didn't know, Aslan is God.
Right.
Cheers.
Now I can have a drink. Okay, bye-bye. Happy Easter Sunday.
God bless you.
Bye, Alex.